The Iran deal. And Trump wants to back out of it. Welcome to the Militant Moderate Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Michael Bolt. And everybody, of course, is in a panic. So what is the Iran deal? Iran has basically agreed to halt its development of nuclear weapons in exchange for economic sanctions that have been imposed on that country for many years now. Here are the broad strokes. For the sanctions to be lifted, Iran, 1, has to be transparent and it needs to be verifiable in all parts of the deal. 2, for the Iran deal, let's go over the big parts. First of all, they're not allowed to enrich uranium past a certain point. So what does Iran have to do in order to follow this deal? Their uranium stockpile will be reduced by 98%, which is literally down to about 660 pounds of uranium for the next 15 years. The level of enrichment get no larger than 3.67%. When it's enriched at that level, it's meant for industrial and light medical uses. To give you an example, when it's at 40% enriched uranium, we're talking higher end medical uses like x-ray machines, and it needs to reach a level of 90% enrichment in order to work in a nuclear bomb. Iran will also retain no more than 6,104 of almost 2,000 centrifuges which have been spinning uranium, which is how they enrich it. Part of the deal is Iran will retain no more than 6,104 centrifuges out of the 20,000 centrifuges that it already has. And this is kind of where it gets sticky, because if they keep spinning uranium, at some point it will get to that 90% enrichment. Critics of this deal say that's one of the bigger problems of it, because if the centrifuges are spinning, at some point they will churn out 90% enriched uranium, i.e. ready for a nuclear bomb. Although there are key specific parts of this deal which basically prevent them from developing a ballistic missile or an intercontinental missile. Although it is conceivable that once they get the uranium to that point, why would they need to develop an interballistic missile when they can just buy one off of North Korea and then put their own uranium into it? Now let's talk about the sanctions, which are the economic sanctions that have been placed on Iran, which has kind of been isolating them from any world markets because of shit that they've done in the past. Once these sanctions have been off for about a year now, the UN Security Council sanctions, as well as economic and financial embargoes by the United States and the European Union, imposed on Iran's banks, insurance, investments, and other related services in different fields, including like pharmaceuticals, oil, gas, automobile. Interesting, will all be lifted at once. This was when the deal was struck. And it also, which I'm starting to see, that they can finally export oil. I thought that's kind of what they did all the time. Tell me down below. Tell me where I'm wrong on that. Tell me if I'm wrong on that. Everyone involved who's put this deal together so far has said that Iran is complying with the deal. Trump says they're not complying with the spirit of the accord, which they're looking at as non-compliance. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and others have said that Iran has not positively contributed to regional and international peace and security. An expectation was embedded in the deal's preamble. They noted that Iran still supports militant groups such as Hezbollah and Hamas, and backs certain militias in Syria and Yemen. Iran has also apparently continued to test ballistic missiles, something that irks the United States, even though such tests do not necessarily constitute a violation of the agreement. Also written into this deal is that the president has to sign off on it every 90 days to continue making sure that Iran is complying with this deal. Trump apparently is not signing off on it. Now, that doesn't mean the deal is dead. What that means is that now Congress has now 60 days to decide what to do next. Doesn't necessarily mean pulling out of the deal. Maybe it involves in putting additional sanctions on. But at this point, we really don't know. So to sum up, was this a good deal? You know, it's kind of hard to say. What could happen another 10 years from now when they have the enriched uranium? Could we be looking at another North Korea in what we have now? Because I know Israel is not happy at all with Iran doing any sort of nuclear weapon. And I think Trump is looking at as, at least what he's saying, is he's looking at this as an opportunity to possibly impose more sanctions to stop them from funding basically his terrorist groups. So all in all, if you think that we should stay in the Iran deal, call your Congress people. They're the ones who are going to decide it. If you do like the Iran deal, call your congressman. They're the ones who are going to decide it. Because right now, Trump has said he's not signing it. Congress has 60 days. So we're going to actually have to rely on Congress to do something. I know. And again, I know. To sum up, it just seems like another pecker-waving contest between two ding-dongs. And yes, Trump is a ding-dong. This has been the Militant Moderate Podcast. I've been your host, Paul Michael Boland. Please be sure to click like and subscribe. Tell me who's the biggest ding-dong in this situation. Gotcha, didn't I? Yeah, you thought I was going to do the clap. Put Donald Trump's head between those two hands. Stop doing stupid shit. All right, this is the Militant Moderate Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Michael Boland, and it's that time. It's time for the fart mouth of the week. And you know it was bound to happen sooner or later. The fart mouth of this week is Donald Trump. I know all of you are shocked. I can literally hear it out there, even though we're like recording this on a camera. But yeah, I can hear like everybody say, "Oh, you mean Trump said something stupid?" Yes, Trump said something stupid. Yeah, shocking, isn't it? Okay. On October 12th, 2017, Trump tweeted, "We cannot keep FEMA, the military, and the first responders who have been doing an amazing job under the most difficult circumstances in PR forever." Yeah, no shit. Of course we can't. Nothing's forever. But is this something you really want to say now when there are people who aren't getting power, there are people who aren't getting clean water? Do you really want to tell them this like, oh, no, you better hurry up and find a way to survive because we're just going to pull the rug out from under here at any moment? Don, you're supposed to be giving people hope. That's not hopeful. Well, luckily there's a buffer in front of Trump's little stupidity here this week before everybody starts running out there. But let's just have a calm down moment, okay? A FEMA official told CNN that their agency has no hard deadline and when it plans to pull out. The official said that once things are stabilized in Puerto Rico, FEMA will pull back resources as appropriate, adding that that's the natural response to a disaster. Things are getting better in Puerto Rico. I mean, granted, they were last in line for the getting hit by a hurricane. Hurricanes hit Texas, the Virgin Islands, and Florida, and then Puerto Rico. But according to people on the ground there, things are getting better. They're getting food. Power is starting to come back on. Cell service has been reinstated if you have AT&T. Go figure. But at the end of the day, Don, you could have just said, and I don't want Trump off of Twitter. The Obama administration said they were going to be the most transparent presidency ever. And obviously we know how that happened. This is transparency. Kind of scary and stupid transparency at times, but this is still transparency. So, Donald Trump, you are our fart mouth of the week. Be better, please. It'd be nice. This has been the Militant Moderate Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Michael Boland. Always click like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. It always helps. And why don't you leave a comment about what Trump should have said? This is the Militant Moderate Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Michael Boland. And it's time again for the most awful joke of the week. Try saying the following the next time you're in line at your local coffee shop. Well, you know, I learned everything I know about sex from my father. And fortunately for me, he was a very gentle man. Yeah. This has been the Militant Moderate Podcast. I've been your host, Paul Michael Boland. Please keep like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on how much you hate me or how I need to find Jesus or something. Yeah, my psychiatrist stopped returning my calls, so I didn't know they could do that. But remember, be nice to one another.